6 Imperial Fabergé eggs, created by master jeweler Peter Carl Fabergé, vanished from Russia over a century ago, each worth tens of millions of dollars, and their whereabouts remain one of art history's greatest mysteries. From a $14,000 flea market find authenticated by Park Bonnet auction records that turned out to be worth $33 million to eggs last seen in Soviet inventories before disappearing forever. The hunt for Russia's lost imperial treasures continues to captivate collectors and investigators worldwide. To understand why these eggs matter so much, we need to go back to 1885, when Emperor Alexander III commissioned something extraordinary for his wife from Peter Carl Fabergé. Instead of another glittering necklace or breathtaking ring, the master jeweler created something deceptively simple: a white enameled egg, just 2.5 inches tall, but inside lay the real magic. The egg twisted apart to reveal a golden yolk, which contained a golden hen sitting on golden straw. Hidden within the hen was a tiny diamond crown holding an even tinier ruby pendant. This first egg cost 4,151 rubles, and it launched a tradition that would span 3 decades and produce 50 of the most exquisite objects ever created. Alexander III was so delighted that he granted Fabergé the title Goldsmith by Special Appointment to the Imperial Crown, and commissioned an egg every Easter thereafter. When Nicholas II inherited the throne in 1894, he doubled the tradition, ordering 2 eggs annually, one for his mother, the Dowager Empress Maria Feodorovna, and one for his wife, Tsarina Alexandra. The creative process was shrouded in secrecy. As Fabergé expert Geza von Habsburg explains, it was the best-kept secret what the following Easter egg was going to be. Nobody was allowed to know, not even the Tsar himself was informed. Fabergé received complete artistic freedom, with only one requirement: each egg must contain a surprise. The results were breathtaking. The winter egg, designed by one of the few women in Fabergé's workshops, Alma Teresia Peel, was inspired by ice crystals on her workshop window. Born into a Finnish family of craftsmen, Peel had joined Fabergé at just 20 years old. Her winter egg, covered in diamonds and platinum to mimic frozen dewdrops, recently sold at Christie's for a record $30.2 million, exceeding its $26 million estimate. Other eggs contained intricate clockwork mechanisms, miniature trains, detailed reproductions of palaces, and portraits painted on surfaces smaller than postage stamps. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, with master goldsmiths like Mikhail Perkin and Henrik Wigström overseeing production. According to von Habsburg, they are the absolute summit of craftsmanship. They are unbelievably made. They were the sort of apogee of what Fabergé was able to do, and he lavished everything he could on them. Production continued smoothly until world events intervened. No eggs were made in 1904 and 1905 due to the Russo-Japanese War, as creating luxury items during wartime was deemed inappropriate. The steel military Easter egg of 1916 would be the last completed imperial egg presented by Nicholas II to his wife. Fabergé was working on 2 more eggs in 1917 when the February Revolution erupted, forcing Nicholas II to abdicate. Those final eggs were never completed. The Bolsheviks nationalized the House of Fabergé in 1918, and the family fled to Switzerland, where Peter Carl Fabergé died in 1920 of what von Habsburg described as a broken heart. As von Habsburg later wrote, when Fabergé saw that all was lost, he decided that was it. His whole world had collapsed, and he fled to Switzerland, where he died in 1920 of a broken heart. The eggs' fate under Soviet rule was initially uncertain. They were inventoried along with other imperial treasures and stored in the Kremlin armory. But by 1927, Joseph Stalin needed foreign currency to fund his modernization plans. The Soviets began selling the eggs through Antiquariat, the state export agency, as part of their Treasures for Tractors initiative, converting imperial luxuries into industrial machinery and foreign exchange. Between 1930 and 1933, 14 imperial eggs left Russia. Some went to American collectors like Malcolm Forbes and Armand Hammer, who assembled significant private collections. Others scattered to museums and private hands across Europe and America. Emanuel Snowman of the London dealers Wartsky acquired several eggs during this period, becoming instrumental in preserving and documenting Fabergé's legacy. Of the original 50 imperial eggs, 44 have survived and been accounted for, but 6 remain missing, all of them originally belonging to Maria Fyodorovna, the Dowager Empress. These lost treasures read like a catalogue of artistic mastery. The hen with sapphire pendant egg from 1886, the second egg ever made, featured a gold hen covered in rose diamonds, taking a sapphire egg from a nest also covered in diamonds. Last documented in the Kremlin Armory inventory of 1922, it simply vanished. The cherub with chariot egg of 1888 exists only in a single blurry black and white photograph. Fabergé's own records describe it as a gold egg covered in diamonds and sapphires, pulled by a chariot and angel with a clock inside. It was exhibited at Lord & Taylor department store in New York in 1934, but its current location is unknown. The Necessaire egg of 1889 has a documented trail that goes cold in the 1950s. Covered in rubies, emeralds and sapphires, it was evacuated from St. Petersburg to the Kremlin in 1917. But somehow it ended up in London, where Wartsky exhibited it in 1949 as part of the first Western exhibition devoted to Fabergé's work. 3 years later, on June 19, 1952, Wartsky sold it to a buyer identified in their ledgers only as a stranger for £1,250. That mysterious buyer has never been identified. The mauve egg of 1897 presents a different puzzle. Fabergé's invoice simply described it as a mauve enamel egg with 3 miniatures, showing the Tsar, his wife, and their oldest daughter. The miniatures survive and are in St. Petersburg, but the egg itself wasn't recorded in the 1917 or 1922 inventories, suggesting it had already disappeared before the revolution. The final 2 missing eggs, the Royal Danish egg of 1903 and the Alexander III commemorative egg of 1909, are known only from single photographs. The Danish egg commemorated Maria Fyodorovna's royal heritage, topped with Denmark's Order of the Elephant. The commemorative egg honoured her late husband 15 years after his death. Both have completely vanished from the historical record. But the story of the missing eggs took an extraordinary turn in 2014 with one of the most remarkable art discoveries of the century. A scrap metal dealer from the American Midwest had purchased a small golden egg at a flea market for $14,000, hoping to melt it down for $500 worth of gold. When scrap dealers told him it wasn't worth that much, he was stuck with an expensive ornament he couldn't afford. Desperate to recoup his money, he researched the names engraved on the clock inside the egg. His Google search led to a 2011 Telegraph article by researchers Anna and Vincent Palmade about a missing Fabergé egg based on theories first proposed by scholar Annemiek Wintrekken in 2008. Stunned, he contacted Wartsky in London. Kieran McCarthy, co-managing director at Wartsky, flew to America to investigate. What McCarthy found was extraordinary. As he later recounted, "I was flabbergasted. It was like being Indiana Jones and finding the lost ark." The egg was sitting on a kitchen counter in a very modest home in the Midwest next to a highway and a Dunkin' Donuts. There was the egg, next to some cupcakes on the kitchen counter. The egg was authenticated as the third Imperial egg, created in 1887 by Finnish goldsmith August Holmström, and had been lost since it was sold at a Parker Bernay Galleries auction in 1964 for $2,450. The anonymous finder, who wishes to remain unidentified, sold it for a sum reportedly in the tens of millions, transforming his $14,000 gamble into one of the greatest treasure finds in history. This discovery proved that the missing eggs could still surface in the most unexpected places. As von Habsburg noted, the egg is absolutely genuine and fits perfectly into the timeline of the 52 known Imperial eggs. It also demonstrated that at least some of the missing eggs had made it to the West and might be hiding in plain sight. The current distribution of the surviving eggs tells the story of a collection scattered across the globe. Russia now holds the largest number, with 10 eggs in the Kremlin Armory Museum and 9 in the Fabergé Museum at the Naryshkin-Shuvalov Palace on the Fontanka River in St. Petersburg. The United States houses 13 eggs, with 5 at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts and 3 at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The Queen of England owns 3 imperial eggs in the royal collection. The private market for Fabergé eggs has reached astronomical levels. Russian oligarch Viktor Vekselberg purchased the entire Forbes collection for over $100 million in 2004, bringing 9 eggs back to Russia through his Link of Times Foundation. The recent sale of the winter egg for $30.2 million in December 2025 set a new record, though market conditions are challenging. According to McCarthy, both major markets, the United States and Russia, are highly compromised, with US imports facing 35% tariffs and Russian repatriation efforts creating legal complications. The search for the missing eggs continues with renewed vigor. Fabergé experts report having leads on at least 2 of the missing eggs. As von Habsburg cryptically states, certain clues about the eggs' whereabouts are currently being pursued. The discovery of the 3rd imperial egg has energized the art world, proving that century-old mysteries can still be solved. There have been false alarms. In 2022, US authorities thought they had found an egg on a Russian oligarch's seized super yacht, only to discover it was a fake. But such disappointments haven't dampened enthusiasm for the hunt. The missing eggs represent more than just lost artworks. They're symbols of a vanished world. Each egg was a masterpiece of craftsmanship, created by master jewelers working under the supervision of Peter Carl Fabergé between 1885 and 1917. The workmasters Mikhail Perkin and Henrik Wigström, along with designers like Alma Peel and goldsmith August Holmström, created objects that pushed the boundaries of technical and artistic achievement. These eggs witnessed the final decades of Imperial Russia, from the prosperity of the 1890s through the disasters of World War I and Revolution. They survived the chaos of 1917, the Soviet sales of the 1920s and 1930s, and decades of Cold War separation. Some found their way to American collectors, others to European dealers, and 6 simply vanished. The story of Maria Feodorovna herself adds poignancy to the mystery. Unlike her son, Nicholas II, and his family, she escaped Russia with the help of her nephew, Britain's King George V. She managed to bring only 1 egg with her, the Order of St. George egg, the last she ever received. The other eggs meant for her, representing 32 years of Easter gifts from her husband and son, were left behind to face an uncertain fate. Today, as geopolitical tensions complicate the art market and ownership questions become increasingly complex, the search for the missing eggs continues. They could be in private collections, forgotten in attics, or hidden in bank vaults. The anonymous Midwest buyer proved that extraordinary discoveries are still possible. The 6 missing Fabergé Imperial eggs, the hen with sapphire pendant, cherub with chariot, Necessaire, Mauve, Royal Danish, and Alexander III commemorative, remain out there somewhere. Each represents not just millions of dollars in value, but a piece of history waiting to be rediscovered. In a world where a $14,000 flea market find can become a $33 million treasure, the next great discovery might be just around the corner, sitting on someone's kitchen counter, waiting for the right person to recognize its true significance. The hunt continues, and somewhere in the world, 6 Imperial eggs, masterpieces of art and engineering that once graced the tables of Russian tsars, await their moment of rediscovery. Speaking of legendary treasures that have obsessed hunters for over a century, there's another mystery that's even more dangerous and expensive. On a small island off the coast of Nova Scotia, 6 people have died, over $100 million has been spent, and after more than 200 years of digging, the treasure is still missing. This is the story of Oak Island,